Evening, everybody. Welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show Worldwide here on the Vida television network. Happy you've tuned in this evening. Look, for all of you who are independents or liberals or Democrats out there, I'm going to share something with you that maybe you haven't heard because it's not necessarily in your particular circle. For you conservatives out there, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. There has been real frustration out there, real frustration with the idea that the Republican Party, the alleged conservative party, won the election, and that left-wing extremism, courtesy of Barack Obama, was imposed on us quickly enough. But getting rid of it is turning out to be quite difficult. And much to the frustration of many people out there in our great land, it's hard to find some victories, legislatively or otherwise, because Republicans are too timid to fight, even when Democrats and liberals have been handed loss after loss after loss. And it really brings many of us, like me, to question the commitment of those in the Republican establishment and those in the Republican Party to actually fight for their professed values. So that's going to be the theme tonight in the Chris Salcedo Show Worldwide. Make sure you get in touch with the program by heading to our social media sites. The first site, of course, is chrissalcedo.com. ChrisSalcedo.com. You can leave a voicemail or an email there, or instantaneous feedback from the program at Chris Salcedo TX at ChrisSalcedotx as in Texas. I want to take you to a hearing that was on Capitol Hill. Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General of the United States, was on the hot seat, and Republicans were grilling him, and Democrats too. I want to give a hat tip to Congressman Louis Gohmert from Texas. He, because he noticed the Attorney General was getting berated by liberals and progressives about talking in his capacity as a senator with the Russian ambassador, Louis Gohmert had an observation that he wanted to have read into the record, and it was brilliance. Listen to this, please.
Just was going to ask unanimous consent, since there's been all this stir about senators meeting or not meeting with Russians. I would ask unanimous consent to have this part of the record. It is an article from March 3rd, 2017 by Katie Pavlich. It's a list of Democrats who also met with the Russian ambassador, and then also this article from June 26 regarding Senator McCaskill's tweet that she got no call or meeting with Russian ambassador ever. And then it turns out, the article points out, actually she met with the Russian ambassador at his home, and I would like those in the record.
Yeah, and he got them in the record. Look, I had on the radio show back in December a now infamous, I guess, in the Chris Salcedo Show circle, rant. Went on for quite a few minutes, and I would play it for you, but there's no pictures. So you guys, I mean, I could play the sound, but it's quite lengthy. But it was my frustration that Democrats were trying to criminalize contact with Russians. But of course, exonerating themselves. That reference, by the way, to Claire McCaskill. Claire McCaskill, a Democrat senator, said, "I've never had any contact with any Russians ever." Turns out there's a photo of her with a Russian ambassador, and she visited him at his home. So she did have a contact. And using the Democrats' absurd standards, that means they are just as culpable in treason as they have been flinging out toward Republicans and the Trump administration as Republicans are for having talked to Russians. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, in his capacity as senator, had a conversation with Ambassador Kislyak. And this whole idea that talking with Russians is somehow tantamount to treason, well, let's go down that road and let's make sure that Democrats left out of the treason. Louis Gohmert also had a very good explaining session about why this special counsel with Bob Mueller is illegitimate, in my view. Listen to this.
Well, this was an investigation into Russia trying to corner the market with U.S. uranium. And there is actually a motion to seal. I'm sure.
Now, motion. Okay, first off, uranium. He's talking about the Uranium One deal that was oversaw by Hillary Clinton's State Department, and that Hillary Clinton, her foundation, received millions upon millions of dollars of donations from Russian interests. I think of the tune was $450 million. Bill Clinton, all of a sudden, his speaking fees in Russia tripled, and nobody can figure out why. Maybe he got a speech coach. Who knows? But we all suspect it was because Hillary Clinton was greasing the skids for this Uranium One deal, which basically gave control to the Russians. The now hated Russians gave them control over 20% of our uranium. Now, he's talking about a deal being sealed. What he's talking about being sealed is an FBI investigation that was conducted by Bob Mueller. He was the FBI director at the time. You know, he's the special counsel investigating alleged Trump-Russia collusion. Now, what Mr. Mueller was investigating was a bribery scheme that saw the Russians bribing American officials like Hillary Clinton to grease the skids for this Uranium One deal. And it didn't go anywhere, oddly enough, just went away. But instead of not going anywhere and saying, well, here's all of our findings, somebody ordered all the findings sealed so that you and I couldn't see them. Now, if there's nothing to see there, if there's no problem, why can't you and I see them? Now, I wonder who ordered those sealed.
You've filed them many times as a U.S. attorney, and this one is respectfully submitted. Rod J. Rosenstein, U.S. attorney, and Adam Akey is the assistant U.S. attorney.
Rod J. Rosenstein is the current deputy attorney general. He is the one, after Jeff Sessions recused himself from any types of Russia investigations, convened the special counsel. Convened that special counsel. Rod Rosenstein ordered Hillary Clinton's dealings with the Russians, an investigation into bribery of Obama administration officials, sealed. Louis Gohmert went on.
Asking Judge William Connolly to have this Russian investigation, the investigation into the Russian effort to corner our market, to seal those records. So you were not aware that Rosenstein had this prior dealing with Russian uranium before you recused yourself, had you? You weren't aware of that, right?
Well, my recusal that we made public was for the Mueller investigation, the campaign.
Yeah, the campaign and the Russian investigation. That was his recusal. But that wasn't the question. The question was, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, did you know about Rod Rosenstein's involvement in sealing all of those records to cover up what was going on in the Uranium One deal, the bribery scandal in the Obama administration, money being given to certain members of the Obama administration to grease the skids, to give 20% of America's uranium to the Russians?
Right.
Russia.
Well, but that's, Mueller was appointed, but
Right.
You weren't aware that Mueller had been central in the investigation before.
Mueller was the head of the FBI. Mueller was the head of the FBI that conducted this FBI investigation into bribery. And oddly enough, that same Bob Mueller is now investigating Trump and Russia collusion.
Or Jim Comey took over at the FBI September of 2013. So you were not aware of the Mueller-Comey investigation into Russian uranium, were you, before?
Now, this is priceless. This is why we conservatives are so frustrated with the Attorney General of the United States, Jeff Sessions. Because, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you that all of the evidence that is piled against the previous administration, it's voluminous. All of the records, all of the published reports, all of the confirmed problems that happened with Russia collusion between Hillary Clinton and the DNC and Fusion GPS and all of these shenanigans surrounding our election, not to mention the Uranium One deal that we're talking about. Voluminous possibilities for investigation, but nobody's looking into it. Nobody's looking into it, including the Republican-appointed Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. And Louis Gohmert saying, well, Attorney General, were you aware that Bob Mueller was the FBI director during this time investigating this Uranium One deal? Are you aware that your deputy attorney general was the one who ordered all the information about Clinton's culpability and the bribery scandal sealed so nobody could see it? Were you aware of that before you recused yourself?
Before you recused yourself?
I don't.
What the HEW hockey sticks was that, ladies and gentlemen? No real good answer. Now, there's one of two ways we can look at this. The Attorney General of the United States, Jeff Sessions, has no earthly idea what was just laid out for him by Louis Gohmert. Has no clue. Bob Mueller was in the FBI? Huh? Rod Rosenstein has been covering up for Hillary Clinton? Huh? Yeah, that's possible. The criticism that we have had in the conservative movement of Jeff Sessions is that he can walk, but he's not able to, doesn't appear to be able to chew gum at the same time. He's walking by cracking down on MS-13. He's walking by cracking down on criminal illegal aliens in this country, which is good, which they need to be cracked down upon. Criminal illegal aliens are bad news in the United States of America, and we will applaud the Attorney General for that. But what about all of the illegality and malfeasance in the previous administration? Do we, the people, get any justice for that? And you guys just saw recusal. He couldn't answer.
Think so. No, I was not, of course. I wasn't in the Department of Justice and wasn't aware of that when it was going on.
My time's run out, but we've got a chart here that shows just how integral the relationship is with Mr. Rosenstein, Mr. Mueller, into this whole Uranium One thing. It sure stinks to high heaven, and it doesn't appear to me they ought to be involved in investigating.
No, I completely 100% agree. Oh, I've got a great idea. Why don't we put the guys in charge who covered up potential law breaking by the previous administration to investigate the incoming administration? Oh, that's good. I mean, hey, even if you're a Democrat, even if you're a liberal, do you want guys with histories of covering things up to be investigating the opposition party? Now, what worries many of we conservatives is that the fix is in, is that there's a predicate in Washington that says, oh, if you're a Democrat, you can do this kind of stuff. You can get away with it all the time. If you're a Republican, we're going to feed you to the wolves. And that is a dangerous double standard. You know, I'm not going to be able to get all of it in, and I'll probably save it for tomorrow night's show. But I've got to get a little bit of Jim Jordan. He's a congressman who just tore into Attorney General Sessions. Listen to the beginning of this, and you will be amazed.
Mr. Attorney General, did the FBI pay Christopher Steele?
Where am I?
Right here.
Yeah.
Did the FBI pay Christopher Steele, the author of the dossier?
Those are matters you'll have to direct to the, I think, maybe the special counsel.
Wait a minute. Why would the congressman from Ohio have to direct his question to the special counsel? The special counsel is investigating Russia collusion between the Trump administration and Russia. The Russia collusion thing, right? Why would the congressman need to direct a question about Fusion GPS, which is a Russian-backed firm that Hillary Clinton paid money to and the Democrat National Committee paid money to get dirt on Trump? I didn't think they were under investigation. Why would that be Mueller's jurisdiction? And why don't you know about it, Jeff Sessions?
And why is that? I'm just asking if someone.
Well, I'm not able to reveal internal investigatory matters here that's under the investigation of anybody, but particularly I think
This happened in the summer of 2016. We know the Clinton campaign, the Democrat National Committee paid through a law firm, Fusion GPS, to produce the dossier. We know the author was Christopher Steele. It's been reported that he was on the payroll of the FBI. I'm just wanting to know if, in fact, that is the case.
I'm not able to provide an answer to you.
Why not? Why can't you? The Federal Bureau of Investigation is a division of the Attorney General. They report to the Attorney General. They are a part of the executive branch. And he is a cabinet level position of Attorney General. And they answer to him. Why doesn't he know? Why wasn't that his first question upon getting into office? Hey, did we actually pay for this thing? I'll be back in a minute, folks. Chris Salcedo Show Worldwide. Welcome back. It's the Chris Salcedo Show Worldwide here on the Vida Television Network. Earlier today, I had a chance to talk with somebody who is, well, fighting back. I took a phone call on the show, probably the Houston show, I think it was, individual who was saying, Chris, I'm tired. I'm tired of being in control, the Republicans in both houses of Congress and in the White House, and the liberals seem to be calling the shots. I'm sick and tired of responding. I want to go on the offense. And this is all stemming from what happened with Roy Moore, Sean Hannity giving an in-depth interview to Roy Moore, which caused a lot of people to raise a few eyebrows and a couple of red flags about the way Roy Moore, the Senate candidate in Alabama, was responding. I'll get into all of it in detail in this interview. Here's how it went earlier today. Well, you know what? I talked to you earlier today. And because we had such a good conversation, I wanted to get you on. We had a little bit more time. Yeah, so let's you and I restart again. Brian Maloney, editor-in-chief of Media Equalizer, longtime radio host and a political analyst. And Brian founded the Radio Equalizer website in 2004. There, is that better?
That's a lot better. But not to take away from any of Seaton's accomplishments. Not at all.
Who was on me yesterday was Seaton Motley, so that's where I got that. But you know what?
That's where you got it from. Yeah.
All right, so look,
He's a great conservative.
Yeah, he is a good conservative, and we enjoyed our conversation with him, and I really enjoyed our conversation with you earlier on today in the North Texas show. So let's you and I break down what has happened, and let me just set up this for the folks who actually didn't know. What has transpired with Keurig, with the Roy Moore accusations, and with radio and television host Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity, folks, did an interview with Roy Moore, and it was probably the definitive interview out there. Well, news stations who couldn't get an interview with Roy Moore were citing Sean Hannity, and he gave a clinic on how to give a tough interview to someone who is on your political side. You can't expect ABC, NBC, CBS to do that with any Democrat. They don't do that with any Democrat or CNN. So Sean does this. And as a matter of fact, because of this interview, and Brian, back me up, we saw a lot of support peeling away from Roy Moore because Roy Moore didn't accord himself very well in this interview with Sean, wasn't very definitive at all in some of the questioning that Sean was given. So,
well, yeah.
So given that it was a hard-hitting interview, the leftists take to Twitter to, of course, lie, because that's what leftists do. They lie. So they lied to Keurig and to three other sponsors on Sean Hannity's show on Fox, and Keurig and these other people these other sponsors wet themselves and they pulled their advertisement basically on the left-wing media outreach. And do I have this about right?
Well, you have it exactly right, really. And the thing is, and I watched that Hannity interview. I was sitting in the green room ready to do my own segment on Fox because I did the opening segment on Laura right after that. And I'm sitting there watching, and even Geraldo was praising Sean Hannity over that interview and how tough it was with Roy Moore. And the other guests, none of whom I think were really conservative. So Sean had one of the most fair and balanced shows I've seen on there in a while. And if anything, they might have been a little too tough on Moore, in my view, because I went on there and blasted the media over the timing and the way they've covered this. Aside from whether Moore is guilty or innocent,
right?
I think that it's so transparent what's going on here. I mean, I smell a rat, and I think that you probably do too. So Sean Hannity then is under attack from the left, from Media Matters for America, over one of the most reasonable hours that anyone, even on the left, could say by watching that. I mean, anyone at any point in the spectrum. But the bottom line for the left right now is this is just about collecting scalps. This is about eliminating all conservative voices, all moderate voices, even just people who are a little bit liberal and not on the far left. That's how intolerant this has become. And they are well-funded. Media Matters for America is extremely well-funded. They have George Soros and his billions of dollars backing them. So they have unlimited funding. We don't. Basically, we just have the grassroots and people fighting back one by one. So what we started doing earlier this year in May, we created a group, myself and Melanie Morgan, who's another conservative activist, longtime activist, and we're both former radio talk show hosts ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
What we did was we created a group on Facebook called Stop the Scalpings. And it's one word, Stop the Scalpings, that I do hope that your listeners will join the group, because your North Texas show, we definitely had a lot of people join. So I'm hoping you'll have the same now here with this one. So the bottom line here is that we have over 108,000 members. And so when Sean Hannity or any other conservative voice is under fire, we have thousands of people ready to fire back. And that's exactly what happened this weekend. We had our counter strategy in place. And as soon as Couric announced that they were pulling their ads from Hannity, we had thousands and thousands of people just terrorizing the company, basically. And within hours, we had these videos of the coffee makers being dropped out of windows and smashed on the ground. And it was a public relations nightmare. So they're not used to conservatives fighting back. They're not used to this kind of response. So they're in shock. Corporate America doesn't know what to do. So we're trying to change the conservative mindset through Stop the Scalpings and MediaEqualizer.com, our website, and kind of create a whole new environment where we don't sit back and take it anymore.
Well, Brian, let me ask you this. Brian Maloney, by the way, our guest, he's editor-in-chief of Media Equalizer. The reality on the ground that Keurig and other advertisers and the National Football League is finding out is that the conservative mindset, not necessarily doctrinaire or political conservatives, but those who believe in love of country, the rule of law, that kind of thing, is the vast majority of the country. They're not mobilized. They're not organized. And that the left-wing, butthurt individuals, the American haters, the anti-rule of law folks, are a very minuscule, tiny number of individuals who are organizing on Facebook and on Twitter, and they have a bunch of fake accounts that make 100 of them look like tens of thousands of them. And that,
well, they do. You're absolutely right. And we have actual real members. Our 108,000 people are actual Americans from all over the country. We've heard from so many of them. And you're right, on their end, a lot of them are bots. It's a very fake operation, but they're the ones that win. Corporate
folks,
America,
let me hold on a second, Brian. He said bots, B-O-T, not bought as in purchased, bots as in
bots as in robots.
As in,
sorry if I'm being too techno.
No. I just want to make sure because
bots meaning fake Twitter users, not real human beings.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. Yeah, bots, B-O-T-S, ladies and gentlemen. This is that's stuff that's being implemented largely by the left to make them appear bigger and more consensus than they really are. So, Brian,
absolutely.
Brian, another thing, let me share a back and forth I went through with a leftist today who basically, I put out a tweet about one of the accusers working for the Hillary campaign, Roy Moore accusers, working for the Hillary campaign and working for the Biden campaign, okay?
Right.
And so just a matter of fact, it was a Daily Caller story. The leftist shows up on my Twitter handle saying I'm supporting a pedophile, a child predator.
Yeah.
This is what they do.
Yeah. Well, I was getting those same hate mail pieces, emails, the moment I got off the Fox segment Friday night. So it was the same thing. So, look, they have their talking points. They have their playbook. They're doing it their way. But we're trying to change the way we do it because we have not been very effective in the past in our counter strategy. In fact, we've often not had a counter strategy. A lot of people that I know that are fellow conservatives over the years just said, oh, just ignore the left. They'll go away.
Yep.
If everyone ignores them, they'll go away. People don't understand is the left will never go away. They eat, breathe, and sleep far left activism. This is what they do 24/7. They are the angriest people you will ever meet in your life. So they will never give up. So the only way to do this is to confront them. The real issue that I had with the George W. Bush presidency was that he had a way of just kind of ignoring his critics for 8 years and hoping they went away. And that didn't happen. Instead, over the course of 8 years, they were able to define him the way they wanted him defined. And so that is a fundamental political error that I hope that no conservative will ever repeat. We cannot do things that way as conservatives and as patriotic Americans. We have to fight our enemy. We cannot ignore them. I'm
so glad you said that. Just the other day, I said, because a couple of leftists showed up on, I think it was either on Facebook or my Twitter account, and tried to define my position to fit their left-wing idiocy. And I said, no, that's George W. Bush's job to let you define me. I define me. Nobody else defines me but me.
Exactly. And you have to define yourself first. See, here's the problem. If you don't define yourself first, then the left will do it for you.
Exactly.
And so we've seen this, and they are extremely effective in doing that. So they will turn you into the monster they want you to be. So it is up to us to get ahead of that and say, no, this is who I am, before they ever have the chance to create their cartoonish image of us as, with horns on our heads or whatever.
There you go. Brian Maloney, everybody, is our guest right now, editor-in-chief of Media Equalizer, a longtime radio host and political analyst. He works with Melanie Morgan, who came on the program to tout the starting of Stop the Scalping. So if you're looking for a place to get involved, if you're looking for a place to rally, to talk with more like-minded folks, if you're tired of Attorney General Sessions' way of doing things, which is to sit down and let the left get away with murder and prosecute conservatives or Republicans, then go to MediaEqualizer.com or head to Stop the Scalpings on Facebook. Brian,
That's right. It's funny that you mentioned Jeff Sessions. Isn't that disappointing?
Did you? Well, hold on. But I was going to go to break. But while I've got,
of course.
No. While I've got you here, let me just ask you. Here he is in testimony, which I'm going to play right after we get done talking with you. Jeff Sessions in testimony before the Congress yesterday. He is grilled meticulously and brilliantly by Jim Jordan. And in the face of all of that evidence, he can still justify no special counsel when the special counsel was convened on no evidence whatsoever on Trump-Russia collusion.
I thought he was one of us. I don't know what's happened to him, but I think Washington infects people like this. They get there and then they get absorbed by the monster that is Washington, that is the swamp, and they become swamp creatures. And I think that's what happened here.
Yeah, I think you're right. Brian Maloney, everybody, editor-in-chief of Media Equalizer. Buddy, I appreciate the patience, and thanks for being here on the Salcedo Show. Okay, that's going to do it for the Chris Salcedo Show Worldwide for this evening. You want to get in touch with the show? Leave a voicemail or an email at chrissalcedo.com, at Chris Salcedo TX on Twitter for instantaneous feedback on anything you just saw that you found interesting or worthy of commentary on the program tonight. Talk to you tomorrow. It's the Chris Salcedo Show Worldwide here on the Vida Television Network.